Hello, welcome to the EP7 podcast. You are here with Rachel Donovan and the founder of EP7, Mr. George Helou.
Thanks, Rachel, and thank you for joining us. We love talking about how to get the heart into everything we do to get a lot out of life.
Whether it be relationships, business, careers, you name it. So, let's get started. So this good topic, George, is one that you have suggested, and I think it's a really great one that we should discuss because we've got a really large male audience that listens to our podcasts, and not to say that females aren't going to benefit from it as well, but I think there's a really strong stigma around masculinity and what it is to be a man, which is why we've titled this one, Are You Man Enough?
Yeah.
And I mean, where did this come about for you that you thought we should talk about?
Well, behind the scenes for many months, I've been working with Julian Pace, the founder of Happiness Co., and they've started a Man Enough campaign that EP7 is a sponsor of. And it's all about helping men open up about their struggles and stop believing that they're on their own or have to be on their own, and that it's the way to be strong and tough to deal with it yourself. And
not ask for help and things.
But by opening up, you start to realise that you're not alone at all. That in itself is very helpful. But then you get to talk it through and you start to learn how to see things differently. And so that's the Man Enough campaign. It's getting guys to realise it's okay to say you're not okay, which is obviously an extension of the Are You OK campaign. The organisation and the message, Are You OK? Like, we should be checking in with one another and not expecting each other to just feel like we're all alone, miserable, but we have to put on a brave face and we're inconveniencing people if we tell them our problems. And so, there's a real extension from that Are You OK into what Happiness Co. is trying to do, which is just appreciate that we all want to be happy. The struggle of unhappiness is an important journey for all of us that we can connect to. And the Happiness Co. is about, hey, what else can we do, all of us together, to create that movement, to be there for one another and become happy, you know?
Yeah. And it's also, I guess, about that, the idea behind it as well is talking about it and bringing it to people's attention about the stigma with men and having to be strong and be really tough and not show their emotions. And just because I think you just accept it as that's the way it is, that's the way men are, or that's the way men think they have to be. But once you start talking about it and kind of bringing down these ideas that we have to see how we can start to change it.
Yeah, like I started to think about that strong metaphor of to be strong and to be hard. You know, we see all those TV commercials right from the 80s where, you know, like the beer commercials and a man and hard yakka and this whole idea that they're sweating and they're working all day long and all they need is a refreshing beer at the end to celebrate the fact that they're a man. And so it's in our culture, and the culture is not just Australian, it's quite global, even though there's a lot of countries that are very different, where the feminine in the man is celebrated and men are very expressive, whether it be, you know, Brazilian, a bit Italian, except the Italian have got that whole bravado, I'm a stallion and all that. So I take that back. Rocky completely focused on being a hard man. But anyway, you think about the values of being hard, and there are definitely values about being hard and strong, so that things can't push you over and you're determined and you can go where you need to get to in life with no matter what's thrown at you.
So there's a place for it,
There's like you got that brutal strength, you know, like, there's a lot of value in that because life will tempt you to give up. It will push back on you. And if you're not determined enough, strong enough, with enough willpower, back yourself, confident, then you're going to give up.
Yeah. So it seems to have gone, the pendulum has swung too much that way though, hasn't it? Where there isn't the balance then of the softness.
Well, yeah, you see, softness has been associated with weak.
Yeah.
So while it's good for babies, like be soft around babies and nurturing, nurturing and patient and gentle and like all these things that just are comforting and soft hugs and, gentle prayers. See how I'm deliberately showing you that it's all kind of stereotyped into this little fluffy little area of what women do, which is fine for the young children, but even then we need to harden up those children. So there's a war between the values of loving them and making them feel like they matter versus letting them know that the world is a really tough place and they need to be ready for it. And obviously there's a bit of value in both, in how does a child grow up believing in themselves but understanding that the world has everything. It has from, the hard stuff and the fun and the good stuff, and you just need to back yourself. And this is where I like to compare, when I was explaining things are really hard and it's all about being brutal and strong. Well, the softness is malleable. So when a tree has a trunk that does not move because that's the base that holds it in place, it says, you know what, I can't afford to bend because how much growth I've had, I'm so high, if I bend too much here, all that weight will just make me crash over and snap my trunk. So I need my trunk to support all that weight and that height and that width that I've expanded into. So for us, it's like, well, what's our non-negotiable? If we've put ourselves out there, what is the part of us that can hold and support that expression of us in this world, what we stand for? And that's the dignity, that's the non-negotiables in our life. But then when you go up to the branches, they give. There's this nice flexibility, not overly flexible because obviously if you're too soft, then you're just going to be a walkover. So the flexibility is there. It's personified through patience and compassion and tolerance, but with a nice healthy balance, right? And you can see that in the tree. It gives and takes to a point, right? So softness, for me, goes further, and it goes to a place where when you have hard steel, it serves a purpose. It's predictable. It's able to impact and hold its own. Like there's so much value in it. But if you have a certain shape, then it can only perform in the shape that it's molded into. So, for example, if it's a screwdriver, if it's a hammer, if it's a spanner, it's hardened into a specific shape that limits what its use, right? So it's kind of like this, right? If you're a hammer and you're really good in an environment full of nails that need to be nailed, then you're optimized in the version that you are to perform and succeed in that purpose. In other words, your identity is fully congruent with the purpose of your environment in valuing you.
Sure.
But if suddenly there are too many screws, then suddenly you can only do half a job. And then if there are bolts in equal proportion, you're only good at for a third of the time. Now, obviously, we're multidimensional in our personality and how we can be. So in that rough, metaphor, you're stuck in one tool. Well, for us, it's our personality can sometimes be too fixed. And if we think that we can just be always brutal, always intimidating, because the world we're in is where we need to nail the point and not let people negotiate with us around a screw, or the delicate tightness of a bolt, relationship with a washer and, whatever. Like suddenly We're too one-dimensional and we're missing the ability to connect and create value and reach people and have better relations. So the softening part is, what if you could just soften out of that tool and move into a different type of tool for the occasion? What if you can soften out of a version of being that denies you your own worth or capability or your ability to be creative and have some belief in an abundant environment to find another way around it? What if you softened out of that rigidity that is too cynical, too pessimistic, and move into one that's more balanced with grounded with the problems, but completely connecting and able to recognize what you can do better. And therefore, suddenly you're a multi-purpose tool. You've turned into that Swiss knife that's got all the tools in it. And, that's quite funny that a Swiss knife reflects what I'm really trying to say, because innately you can be anything. So if a Swiss knife shows all these wide range of tools for all occasions, you are in reality that, even though we're raised to only feel comfortable and well-versed in a few of those tools. The truth is, we can truly embrace every tool in the right context and at least leverage those that are really good at that part, so that we're making sure that represents how we engage that environment. Yeah?
Yeah.
So the softness is so powerful because it goes back to what I've always say. True power is in your ability to adapt in timely ways so that you are fully optimized into a version that allows you to be exactly what that moment, what that environment needs of you in value, that then creates a reciprocation in value back to you. Like that ability to shift into the optimum way of being, it takes the softness out of that rigid state. So while we love being hard, and that's great, and you know what I love about hard? It's effortless. In other words, once you've taken on that way of being and the body fully adapts to it biochemically so that you are physically into the habits of being that way, effortless, absolute effortlessness to achieve in that specific tool, it just flows. That's powerful. So being hard in the right version is powerful. Being soft and quickly getting out of a version incompatible into a new version is powerful. See, this is the point. Like yin and yang, the masculine and the feminine are totally, how can I say, they are the first principles of surviving and thriving in this life. And to push too much one way or the other is completely unnecessary most of the time. It's very rare to be in a situation where you need to stay too much one or the other. However, having said that, how do we complement ourselves in a partnership if an environment needs us to be both, and suddenly we have children and we want to give them the nurturing, but suddenly one of us has to be out there giving in a job environment? What's funny is that there is no hard and fast rule how you do that. If a couple are negotiating how they give the balance of that to their family unit, suddenly there are home businesses. Suddenly a man or wife can have their own business and share duties and share responsibilities with the children. But we know biologically that a woman is important with a child, with breastfeeding and all that initial contact. So there's a whole world there's a place where the feminine really must express the most, and I'm sure masculine, like in war. Like, yes, technology is allowing a woman can do just the same job with a drone, controlling the drone, as a man. But as you can see, in physical contact, there's been a lot of reasons why to rely on men to do that physical contact part. Simply because, for some reason, biologically, men have that constitution of more muscles and that strength has been proven consistently. Yeah, even though there are exceptions to every rule, blah, 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 that's the general guide, right?
Of course.
So hard and soft are critical elements that we need. And unfortunately, men have been pressured into holding on to the persona of hardness. And so that man enough is just almost like a trigger, that to be man enough is to do it on your own, work it out yourself, suck it up and get on with it. Like all these phrases that make you feel like you're failing if you express a struggle, if you communicate a struggle in you. You're failing because then what you're telling people is they can't rely on you because you're weak.
And you know what the funny thing is that as a female who would look for a partner, I find men that do display some strength and stability very attractive, absolutely. But if a man was too hard and too much like that, I was always looking for that balance of a man who displays strength but has that balance of a softness and a soft heart and expression and communication. And that is so, so attractive. And I'm sure a lot of women or even other guys would agree that is very attractive in a male to have that balance of the two. But even if you don't want to have the strength side, there is a really beautiful quality to and uniqueness to a guy who is able to express himself and to show vulnerability.
Yeah.
I don't know who hasn't been touched if they see a man get up and open his heart when he's saying a speech about a family member or about a colleague or about anything that's touched him, and showing that vulnerability. It's something that you could hear a pin drop. People are just sucking it up in every way because it's just a really incredibly powerful thing to watch, and it displays actually quite a lot of strength to in fact allow that vulnerability to be shown.
So yes, that's the point, Rachel. Why does it allow a lot of strength? Like I can see it, you obviously can see it, but why? Why is there strength in a man being able to show his soft side, show that he's being deeply touched?
Because he's comfortable in his own skin, right?
Yeah, yes. But also there's this weird idea that if you show that things affect you at all, good or bad, it means you're too sensitive. And if you're too sensitive, you can't be hard enough, strong enough to handle this big, bad, ugly world. So it's almost as if there's a taboo on sensitivity for a man, which is why he has to suppress his emotions, pretend he doesn't have feelings, even though biologically he's designed the same way to literally feel everything. This idea that you're not an instrument to feel the depth of life because you're here for that reason is so bizarre to deny the mechanics of experience, the chemistry of existence. It's bizarre. So this notion that men aren't as sensitive, a lot of people come to me and they say, yeah, I am very sensitive. Almost as if there are people that are not sensitive and people that are, right? But you know what? I am totally convinced we're all friggin' sensitive, all of us, but unfortunately, with enough friggin' trauma and conditioning, we learn to cope by numbing and taking on apathy as an emotion to protect from the trauma and to negate we're so raw from being affected. The brain has an ability to compartmentalize, shut out, and stop feeling. And then suddenly we become insensitive. What? As if that's meant to be in some way a part of our personality. It isn't. All insensitivity is directly related to trauma. It's a coping mechanism just to cope. The coping is just, I can't keep feeling this depth of pain. I just can't. So I'm going to have to friggin' put it somewhere and stop allowing anything to ever do that to me again to cope. And once we understand that of each other, the cat's out of the bag. In other words, now, I'm sorry, but you don't convince me with your bravado that you're Mr. Tough Guy. I'm not wearing it. The more tougher you act, the weaker you come across to me. Because now I could see you're riddled with trauma and you're pushing so friggin' hard. You're negating everything that's fundamental that matters in you being something that can connect. So I see straight through you. So I don't buy this bullshit of bravado. I don't buy it. And you know what? We generally don't, do we? We innately feel there's something not right when someone has to be that aggressive, that bullying in their attitude, and also perfect. This idea that there is no mistakes in their world. They can't afford it. Think of the level of insecurity. Think of how much that poor boy had to cop punishment because his dad was carrying the same bullshit ideas passed down generationally, that you can't afford to make mistakes. This world is ugly. You better step up. You better get it right every time. And every time I ask you to pass me a tool, if you don't ask me the same tool, I'm going to get angry at you because making mistakes is just not on. Measure up if you ever want to be accepted. So now you've got this bloke who isn't just putting on the bravado because, you know, they're not doing it to hurt people. They're doing it to protect themselves. And of course, it's masked with the denial that, well, it's justified, this world is hard. And also then they become very, very hard on their children because that's their way of thinking they're protecting them. And this is how it gets passed on. So this man enough, if you want to be man enough, this is where I really love the Man Enough campaign and why we're sponsoring it and why it's already, from what Julian's telling me, the tears, the connection, the amazing stuff that's going on from men willing to, on camera, talk about their struggles. It's just creating a beautiful, beautiful movement so that men are going to go, oh, they're doing it. And am I going to see them as weak? And this is where I was going to go with explain something here. When you share your vulnerability, when you share what's not working for you in your life and what hurts you, right? There's two ways you can do it. One way is where you feel defeated, cynical, pessimistic, and therefore you feel victimized, helpless, hopeless, unworthy. And if you talk from that place, that is the weakness that we don't want to see because that's a self-deception. You see, you've been sold so many lies. You're now trying to sell us that you're unworthy, you're incapable, the world is too hard. They are lies. They are lies. And that's unattractive to be telling us to believe lies with you or allow you to get away with believing those lies. However, you're allowed to have a journey. We all are on the same journey. So if someone expresses the same issues, but from a place of humility, knowing that they don't deserve that there's got to be a better way, that they are so wanting to find it, and they so believe it's there, and they just want to really commit to a journey to discover how they can be different, to better connect to this world. Now, that is a powerful way to express your struggle. And that is so beautiful, endearing. It creates an awesome vortex because it sucks the resources in. Everybody wants to give you a piece of them when they're seeing how humble and open and in believing in them, that they can be a part of that journey with you and that you're open to learning. And, you know, that's... so.
Of course. And I was just going to say one thing about that because that's so true. It's going to inspire a lot of other people too. However, there will still be some people, some guys who just will shut it down, not buy it, discourage, you know. And I think it's in those moments that, you know, it's really important to stand strong. And, yeah, you're going to have a choice there. Do you go back into the comfortable zone, back, you know, oops, this is not, oh, I better just be a man, like put on that front again? Or do you continue to go, no, I'm stepping out and I'm still, you know, not going to be scared?
That's right. And when I say man enough, and I know that we're playing on that strong meme, you know, that phrase, man enough, but gosh, see how equally relevant it is to women. It's the same thing. It's like, are you woman enough to let your true nature of you can be anything to guide you in your expression that you deserve more in life, and therefore you want to know how to be different to take it on? Because remember, the softness of a woman packaged with weakness and helplessness is the romantic notion of being saved by a friggin' hot, sexy white knight. So it's also racist, white knight. You know, like, it's ridiculous, right? So you never hear black knight. I think there's something in that. We should, apparently that movie, The Black Panther, is doing wonders.
Yes.
Can't wait to watch it. And it's kind of creating a bit of a balance there for power and racism. But anyway, we don't digress, but we're definitely on another tangent. So let's go back to this. So being man enough is knowing that what you stand for is non-negotiable. You're worthy. You're freaking capable. And this world has to include you. But being man enough to know you're responsible to learn how to be different, how to understand your environment more deeply so that you can control your destiny. You see, that's strong. That's man enough. But through the process is communication. It's being able to express what you're experiencing so that people know how you're relating, and they can go, oh, but did you know this? Did you know that? Or did you know you impacted me in this way or that way when you said this or that, or did that or this? And so therefore the man goes, oh, I'm starting to notice what I believe and what I think is valuable. Not all of it is. And now I'm seeing the other side. It's deepening my resolve with how I can, now that I'm understanding more, I can be different. You see, communication allows you to hold yourself accountable to how you're truly being in your environment. Expressing what hurts you is because you believe the world does not want to hurt you. So give the world a chance to know, to change for you. You see, are you man enough to believe in this world that it can include you, that it is abundant enough to include you, to love you? Are you man enough to dare to let this world reshape itself for you as you reshape itself for it? That's being man enough, don't you think?
I think you've definitely put that in a much, much better context.
Well, I was hoping I would, because it's a great campaign. It's going to end up with a ball April 7. So anyone in Perth or happy to fly to Perth that wants to join the Man Enough Ball for this beautiful cause, I'll be there. A lot of the EP7 coaches are going to be there because, you know, like, we're so proud in our sponsorship, and we're actually giving away a 12-month Man Enough program to help people go through the EP7 process and really learn the art of.
That's fantastic.
The relationship. Great. The relationship between soft and hard is really going to come to fruition in understanding and in practice through the EP7 Man Enough program that's going to go for 12 months, and we're going to allow 10 of the applicants to join that program, and it's literally going to be about $100,000 worth of program, like 10,000, roughly 10,000 each. So we're proud to give that, and more importantly, it really is about creating the awareness and creating a passage into upskilling and turning on the knowledge of how to embrace the power of soft and know that it has a relationship with being hard, so that finally man and woman are embracing those two dimensions in each other.
Sounds fantastic, George, and I think it's such a great cause and a great initiative, and I'm really happy that we got to do this podcast around that.
Yes, and this might not be the last podcast that's released with you and I, but this is the last one we're doing, aren't we, Rachel?
Yeah, that's right.
So I thought we might as well acknowledge the fact that Rachel's life is getting so busy. And here I was ramping up with a lot more ideas about where their podcast is going. We were going to start guests joining us and all sorts of things. And then Rachel went, oh, I'm not going to do this justice with my schedule. So she rejected me. Basically, she just took a gulp and said, George, I don't think you're going to like to hear this. And 40 odd minutes earlier, I had written a Facebook status update that said this: the meaning you give rejection creates the difference between failure and success. And what does Rachel do 40 minutes later? Reject me.
That's not true. That is not one true bit true at all.
I'm trying to be man enough to express how I'm being hurt here so I can work through it.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's very good.
Actually, you know what, Rachel? It's been an absolute pleasure. I think we've done over 50 podcasts between us. And it's really allowed us as friends to have a reason to keep connecting and knowing what's going on for each other. And so we were saying off air how we're going to make sure that we don't let the lack of podcasts let the relationship not continue, because our friendship is been special for many years and we'll continue it. And maybe whenever you've got a fire in your belly on a topic and you'd like to come on as a guest to share and want us to explore anything you want, you'll be welcome to come back anytime you want, Rachel. How's that?
Thanks, George. I'll take you up on that. I think that's a great idea and I'd love to. I'd really love to.
Awesome.
So it's been a really fantastic 2 years we've been rolling this. So we released, it was in March 2016, but we started recording before that. So it's just over 2 years really. So it's been, we've grown a lot together doing these podcasts, or the podcasts have grown the way, if you listen back to the first few we did to now. So it's been fantastic. And I've gotten just as much out of the conversations as the responses we've heard from listeners too. So it's really great. So thank you, George. Thank you for asking me to be your co-host 2.5 years ago.
It's been an absolute
honour.
It's been a pleasure for me, Rachel, and it's sad to see this chapter end.
I know, I agree.
And thankfully our friendship continues, and I'll heal my wounds with this rejection. Don't you worry. I'm going to use the EP7 tools to heal. But, and this is the thing, like the meaning that I put on you needing to end this is just connecting to the truth of the fact that you have a beautiful life that's thriving and you've got a lot of good stuff that you're doing. And while our connection with this served a purpose in your life to I think you did it to help you, but also to give to me and to give to the cause of spreading this, this format of being empowered for purpose. And so now it's really honor your journey with now this new chapter in your life that's with your career and your relationship thriving, which is beautiful to see over those couple of years where often you chose topics in your struggle to get a relationship that was meaningful. Would you say that looking back on those 2 years and looking at where you're at now, you have a lot of meaning and extraordinary in your life with your roles and relationships?
Yes, it's been, they tell, each podcast also really is sort of has weaved through my life. And it's, I feel lucky to have had the opportunity to be able to hopefully use topics as well that other people has helped them too, that they've been struggling with.
Oh, they've all been relevant to all of us, because I listen to the podcast myself and go, yep, I can see where that relates to me in this situation in my life. So it's really important always that we do that. We're always looking for where does it apply? I can see that I'm either agreeing with what I'm hearing and living it in some areas of my life, but you can always see areas where those principles themselves are of value and are missing in somewhere else. So, so all of the topics that you've shared have been just as relevant for me and I'm sure everyone else. And it's just great to see you in a great relationship, in a career that's really just progressing all the time. Of course, it'll always be bumpy, but that's the whole point. That's the opportunity to, in that softness, continue to reinvent yourself, and it never ends. So keep listening to the podcasts and keep giving us feedback with what topics you want us to do, and we want you to be on a guest every now and then. Sounds done. A correspondent.
Sounds great.
You can be a correspondent.
Oh, cool.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to our EP7 podcast. Thank you, George, for yet again a really fantastic conversation with you. And please jump on our EP7 official Facebook page. Keep the conversation going, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on another EP7 podcast. If you liked what you heard, remember to share and subscribe so you're notified of every podcast released. If you have any questions or would like to connect with us, please jump on the EP7 official Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you.